Good evening. It is January 23rd, 2023. This is the Guilford BOE of Education. Tonight, we are holding a public forum, the first of two, on the budget. The second one again will be also in 7:30. The draft budget proposal for the 23-24 academic year was officially presented to the Board of Education on Thursday, January 12th. The draft budget, Dr. Freeman's presentation of the budget, and the budget timeline, meaning these meetings, meetings at which we will make a final decision, when this budget goes to the Board of Finance for consideration, when the Board of Finance holds a public meeting, etc., up into the date of referendum. That timeline, again, Dr. Freeman's budget presentation and the draft budget are all on Guilford Public Schools website. If you go to the website under Board of Education, there's a drop down and you hit budget, it will lead you to those materials. Dr. Freeman is unable to join us tonight. He is attending to a family emergency. And so I'm just going to briefly, before we start the public comment, summarize some of the key points Dr. Freeman's from Dr. Freeman's budget presentation before we proceed to public comment tonight. This budget was developed in alignment with the goals of the portrait of the graduate and with Guilford Public Schools district priorities. The portrait of the graduate has 6 areas or domains: the adaptable learner, the responsible collaborator, the effective communicator, critical thinker, empathetic individual, and global citizen. So these are the things that we are hoping will be embodied in each of our students as they graduate. This budget is based off of the following assumptions: to provide a safe and healthy school environment, to main focus on instruction and learning, including, as noted, the portrait of a graduate, safe and brave classrooms, social and emotional wellness, and academic standards, equity, and social justice, to extend and improve opportunities for all students, and to be innovative in utilizing personnel and other resources to further student learning and meet mandates. The budget was also developed with enrollment numbers and projected enrollment in mind. The proposed budget, as it has been brought to the Board of Education, is $68,766,475. This represents an increase over the 2022-23 school year of $3,136,741, which is equivalent to a 4.78% increase. This budget is brought to the Board of Education for our consideration, and we are hearing from the public tonight. Again, tomorrow night, we have received already some communications via email, and are throughout this period welcoming your input. There are a couple of noted cost drivers for the increase that is being proposed. One is salaries. Salaries do make up 59% of our budget, and generally that number every year. The medical benefits increase is about $800,000 this year. That is certainly lower than last year, which is good news, but is still high. And medical and other staff benefits usually compose approximately 20% of our budget every year. Other cost drivers this year are transportation, a significant increase in transportation, heat, other utilities. I think that we're noticing as citizens are going up for us as well. A small increase in tuition, and some software increases. The investments in this budget include staff that have been hired in the last year to meet enrollment needs and other needs that were budgeted last year. And also include the addition of a half-time special education teacher at Adams, a 0.6 teacher of Japanese for Guilford High School, an assistant coach for the tennis team, ice time for the hockey team, full time for the swimming team, and a 0.5 office paraprofessionals at one of our elementary schools, Guilford Lakes. We do have a couple of positions that were funded by the ESSER grants that were received through federal funds during the pandemic. And the plan is to fund those through a new grant that public schools will be applying to with confidence. But that will actually mean that we are not trying to absorb those positions into this budget, but are retaining them. Some of the efficiencies in this budget, special education spending has really stabilized over the last several years. And we have, for example, in the last year, met student needs, avoided some outplacements, and provided in-community services with a special education program for some of our older students at 73 Church Street. I've noted the efficiency of a couple of the salaried positions coming through a competitive grant, and building level supplies and materials held low over several years as a result of enrollment adjustments and frugal management. Lastly, I will note that there is a bonding request this year in the amount of $1,524,940, which includes replacement of the gym floor at Baldwin Middle School, elevator modernization required, and furniture and fixtures for the property at 595, which is the old science wing. I think some of us still refer to it as such, on the high school property that is being updated to bring all of our administration from across town into the one building. The last thing I'll note is the return on investment. This is part of Dr. Freeman's presentation every year. And he notes for all of us, for the community, the importance of what happens in this district and in Guilford Public Schools. We regularly rate high on standardized test scores. We have college placements across the country. Our arts and athletics succeed in numerous and exciting ways. We did in the state, the most recent state standards, rank 5th in the state, and are quite proud of that. While we continue to have per pupil spending, that puts us at about the halfway mark across the state. So this is a time that we are here tonight to hear from you. What have you seen in the budget that you'd like to comment on? If you have a question about something that you read in the budget that you're unsure of, or simply want to provide the board input as we consider the budget that has been brought to us by the administration in preparation for making adjustments that we may see fit, and then voting. I believe we're slated to vote on February 6th, February 7th. So I would, with that introduction of the budget and a brief summary of Dr. Freeman's presentation, open up to you, the public. We invite you, if you would like to address the board, to come up to the podium. We ask that you provide your name and address for the minutes, We ask that you keep your comments within 4 minutes. We just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. And we welcome whoever would like to go first.
Ms. Balistraci, any chance you could introduce everybody at the table without having placard?
That's a really
You're welcome.
great, no, that is a great recommendation. So we usually have nameplates in front of us. We're unable, they didn't arrive to us tonight. So thank you for that suggestion. My name is Dr. Katie Balistraci. I am the chair of the board. Asked to go left here first.
Moira Rader, vice chair of the board of ed. Kristen Peck, secretary of the board of ed, and I'll be keeping time tonight. So as you get in your 4 minutes, I'll raise my hand so that you know when to wrap up comments.
Dick Hirsch.
John Delavatura.
Christy Faulkner.
Arnold Scudder.
Jennifer Baldwin.
Thanks so much. So again, we welcome anyone who would like to address the board to come up to the podium.
It's not just go.
I have to get going, so I wanted to go first. Good evening, members of the board. Is this on? Oh, I don't have to. Oh, okay. It's been so long, like in person. I've been watching on the YouTube. Yes. My name is Rebecca Chung, with 2 children in the Guilford Public Schools District, a 3rd grader at A.W. Cox Elementary and an 8th grader at Adams Middle School. I'm on Boston Post Road. So I have been actively involved in our school communities for several years. I'm currently on the A.W. Cox PTO Advisory Board and the Adams Executive Board as treasurer. So after looking over and reading Dr. Freeman's budget proposal for the next school year, I am here to just ask and get clarification regarding the other building expenses admin, which is listed actually on every page for each respective school. I noticed, for example, on page 21 for Adams, there is $9,100 proposed. It is my understanding that these funds are to be used at the discretion of admin as needed for anything in the school related to the building. I'm asking for clarification because I am fully in support for improvement of any building in our school district. For example, I was fortunate enough to be allowed in the Adams building for 3 hours when I volunteered during a PTO holiday cart to treat our teachers and staff to show appreciation, and was frankly sad to see the condition of the school, the overall appearance that our students and teachers were in. There are specific areas that definitely needed some sprucing up, to say the least. I want to be clear that this is not in any criticism or blame towards the custodian staff who I actually seen working hard all the time. Another example was the teacher's lounge in the basement which was completely barren and unused. It is also no secret that there are behavioral and bullying challenges across the district. I feel that this is an unfortunate impact to all the stress and uncertainty that we all had to face during COVID. The kids, as well as the teachers, have gone through a lot of mental stress, and the test scores certainly reflect that in terms of what they have learned. The facts of the matter is that math and reading scores have all gone down, and we need to really support the teachers that actually are still dedicated to teaching our children, the good ones. The good ones, I mean the good teachers that are sticking it through. Recently, I was surprised when the admin at Adams asked our PTO for $1,200 for a rug, as this was not in our original PTO budget we had planned prior to the start of the school year. It made me question, does the admin at our school feel supported? I'd like to ask the board very frankly, is our district unable to fund a $1,200 rug? Clearly, what I would assume a building expense for Adams. I asked for more transparency because the common goal as parents across the district, regardless of any political affiliation, is the desire to support all the kids to have access to enriching hands-on experiences and to support their mental and social well-being, especially after the last couple of years. Our school communities are always looking to donate wherever and whenever there is a need. One of the great things I love about Guilford, I just cannot understand why the admin at Adams would think parents would support a rug of that cost instead of, for example, something to improve the school climate directly, like the teacher's lounge to retain the good teachers we have, or it's no secret the loss of staff, or maybe something for the kids directly, which maybe they can have a part of, a youth advisory board to make their voice heard on what they think that their school needs to make the climate better. I just would appreciate any clarification on this particular, because as a member of the Adams PTO board, our goal is to support our administration, teachers, and students where the district is not able to. I just ask for any funds of the budget to be allocated and used mindfully, given this is a true chance to go back to a normal pre-COVID school year. Thank you. And I just wanted to note on page 21, that it was 28.89% increase, which was the highest across all the schools in the district regarding Adams. That's all.
So, yeah, and what I'll simply say is I can't speak on an individual request from an administrator. What I can say is that each administrator of each building really carefully looks at the budget and the needs for that school. Always keep in mind the community. They meet together as a district leadership team to talk about that. They talk specifically with Dr. Freeman and the leadership. And decisions are made all along the way. These conversations have been going on since October, all along the way. Every year we will get in the budget a school specific budget, right? As well as a district budget. And I think you'll find that it's not unusual for a particular school to at times, in this case, Adams is one, have a higher.
Well, significantly higher if you just look at the numbers. Yeah, that's why I noticed it.
Right, and I'm gonna use examples that don't necessarily reflect this. In a given year, there's a textbook purchase at a particular middle school and middle school that is supported this year, and then next year we may see the other middle school have a large increase as a textbook purchase is made there, right? So the other thing that happens is not just a budget in a vacuum, but a longer term vision. So in terms of that increase at Adams, there are needs that were identified at Adams that are strategically going to be addressed this year. Next year, maybe Baldwin, next year, maybe that's.
So it's like school by school basis.
Absolutely.
So
And
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to know, would, like, for example, like blinds, a rug, they would be included in
those
building
are-
expense.
those are facilities.
Oh,
Those are
okay. That's what I wanted
facility
clarification. Those are considered
Those are
facility purchases. Okay.
purchases under our facility budget. So things like blinds.
Yeah.
carpeting, et cetera, are not in.
They're not part of this. Okay, okay.
Just for clarity. Very specific.
Yeah.
That's something that the administration can, requesting.
And I have communication and proposals and,
Was it something that was requested by the PTO and then?
no, it was requested by the administration directly to the PTO. And we asked to think on it, like, as an executive board, we followed the process, we talked about it, and I said, as treasurer, I didn't feel comfortable allocating that amount. I said we could do like what we spent about $200 on a welcome banner last year for the kids coming in, because COVID with the stress, 7th grade, starting a new school, we thought it'd be helpful to have a nice with the school logo. And we did approve that. And I said, well, I think it'd be reasonable to do $200 again for like a rug, but then the scale of the rug, it surprised me to say the least. Yeah. Yes. But I just wanted clarification what the difference was with like facilities. I wasn't clear with rugs and blinds and.
Right.
Okay.
Building purchases.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm being told that your mic is not. Sorry, I didn't.
No, that's helpful to know. People can hear. All right, thanks. All right, whoever would like to go next, go right ahead. Again, please name and address.
Hi, Alicia Reyna Romano, 29 South Fair Street, Guilford. I'm here today in support of bringing back a cheerleading program at Guilford High School and also Adams Middle School. I've lived in Guilford for nearly 11 years and have seen my 4 children thrive at Guilford schools. My eldest daughter, GHS class of 2015, benefited from the cheerleading program while she attended Guilford High, and my youngest is currently in 5th grade. She is a youth cheerleader and looking forward to participating in cheerleading at her schools. I'm entering my 5th year as head coach and coordinator of the Guilford Youth Cheer Program. We have seen steady growth in the last 4 years, from 9 cheerleaders in 2018, just prior to me taking over the program, to 34 this past season. The last season, we had 1 8th grader, 2 7th graders, 4 6th graders, 6 5th graders, 4 4th graders, 6 3rd graders, 4 2nd graders, and 7 1st graders. The growth and success of the youth program speaks to a need for a middle and high school program. But as you can imagine, it's difficult to build a youth feeder program when there are no middle school or high school programs for these athletes to grow into. Since this is a budget meeting, it is of course important to talk about the financial needs of the program. The most critical budget item is a coach. Cheerleading is a very technical sport and requires a CIAC certified coach in order to be coached and properly and safely. For that, I would request the primary need to kick off a cheerleading program is to fund a coach. A fair stipend for a high school cheer coach based on nearby towns is around $5,000 to $6,000 a year. For example, Daniel Hand cheerleading coach earns about $6,000. The Morgan High School cheer coach earns about $5,000. As comparison, other larger towns in the state earn about $7,000 a year. So it's not a dramatic change. In addition to a coach, cheerleading requires very little specific equipment or financial resources, depending on the expectation of the program. For example, does the squad cheer only at home games or does it go to away games? That would require travel. Not necessary though, especially in the first year or two. Does the team compete, which would require competition fees, music fees? Again, not necessary in the first year or two of the program as it's building. The most important thing to consider are the basic needs of the athletes, which is a uniform, palms, and safe practice space with mats, which there's plenty of already in the schools. These needs could be satisfied with team fundraising efforts and would only cost about $500 per athlete. Cheerleading is a very inclusive co-ed sport that encourages teamwork, confidence, and positive physical fitness. I believe it would be a great addition to the sports currently offered at Guilford High School and Adams Middle School. And I'd like to thank the board for their time and consideration. But that's enough for me. I have a couple of girls here that would like to say a little bit about their experience with cheerleading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Patty, one of you.
Hi, I'm Madison. I live at Podunk Road, and I'm going to high school next year. And I think it would be a great idea to add a cheerleading program at the high school. I moved to Guilford, and when I was little, I always dreamed about being a cheerleader. So I was super excited to join the program. And it was a way for me to stay active during the summer. And I made a lot of connections with the other girls that I may not have met otherwise. I think it would be a great opportunity for the other girls at this high school to just be included and be able to support their team in town.
My name is also Madison. I'm in 11th grade at Guilford High School, and I live on Woods End Road. I drive 45 minutes 4 times a week to go to a club cheer practice, and I only started this sport in the summer, and I have like a lot of gymnastics background and stuff, which helped me. But I've been with my team for under 6 months, and I've already created lifetime friendships. And along with doing it for only under 6 months, I've been giving practice invites and offers from top tier colleges such as Aquinas in Michigan and Towson University. Cheerleading is a sport that requires trust, dedication, and support. Being a part of a team that I know will catch me if I fall and there to be support has not only helped me in my everyday life, but has literally created a place to help me feel safe. As well as creating comfort for myself, everyone on the team boosts each other up when they are feeling down. The best part about cheer is that all you have to do is work together no matter what. Yes, they are sometimes a disagreement, but the bonding that cheerleading holds makes disagreements disappear with simple talk. When one person is feeling down about their stunts or their tumbling, we all join in to make sure that person feels comfortable. I know from personal experience that Guilford High School does not have as much school spirit as other schools, and I've even talked to my friends from like Hand and Brantford, and they all agree that Guilford does not have the school spirit that their schools do. You can see that each year that the classes come in, the spirit dwindles. Having a cheer team as a part of the spirit squad is meant to to cheer on the school and help school spirit. A lot of the time, I feel like I'm the only one dressing up for school spirit, and during pep rallies, it's fun, but not a lot of people are involved. And in the student section, so many people, now I'm trying not to expose them, but they are always saying how they want to leave. Being a part of a student section like that is kind of embarrassing, and I'm not gonna lie. Having a cheerleading program will help the hype in the school. A sport that incorporates both dance and gymnastics is completely different from any of the sports offered here. There are only 3 spots offered on the gymnastics team since they have to practice with Hand, and having a brand new option will attract people that they're looking to try something new. I personally love the dance team, and we were like talking about maybe incorporating the dance with the cheerleading team. That would be another amazing opportunity. Now is the perfect time to create this program because there are so many girls enrolled in the youth program and that they are graduating, like growing out of the youth program, so they would not have opportunities to cheer outside of the youth program, which is sad. It would be devastating if they could not continue this passion for this sport. Again, it could open the door to new amazing opportunities, talent, and experiences with the high school. Thank you.
Last year, we had a student here on GHS.
Fall 2017. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board tonight? Public forum.
I'm Patrick Romano, 29 South Fair Street by the Green. I am the husband to the youth cheer coach. I'm sure we've all heard the joke football widow. I like to joke that I'm a cheer widower. My wife is very committed to this program with the young girls here in town. And I would just like to say, in support of my wife and the girls, and the amount of time that all of them put into this program for youth. You know, I'm a homeowner here in town. I own a business here in town. I proudly pay my taxes on my commercial real estate, my personal real estate, and I love this town. I moved here 11 years ago from San Francisco, moved 3,000 miles with 4 kids, and we chose Guilford because of the education we felt that our kids would get here. I do have a child at Adams Middle School. I have a child at Baldwin, and I have a freshman here at the high school and one who graduated from the high school. 2 of my kids are boys who play in Guilford youth football and have through almost since they were the first year that they were eligible. So obviously we're very supportive of the football program. I think it's important to note that it's called the Guilford Youth Football and Cheer Program. And the football program is a feeder program for the high school football. And I think it's ironic that we have a cheer program tied to the youth football program and yet don't have a feeder it's a feeder program that feeds into nothing. When I look at the budget and I think about the cost that is associated with bringing one person on in a part-time position at, let's say it was $5,000 in comparison to the overall budget and what I think it could bring to these young ladies who put a lot of time and effort into this and get a lot back out of it and what I think it could bring to the school. And mind you, as you pointed out, this school had a program and it had a state, was it not a paid, they had a paid coach at one time. And for various reasons I won't get into, it was allowed to dissolve. Part of it was lack of support at the administration level at that time. But I think it's really important. I'm up here to support these young ladies, and I'm up here to support my wife. And I see some coaches here as well tonight. And I think it's great that they're here supporting these young girls. So I would respectfully ask, and by the way, I want to say first, I meant to say this when I came up here. Thank you all, irrespective of what you decide. Thank you for your service to this town. I think that's it's appreciated, because I know it's sometimes a thankless job. But it is appreciated. And again, as a father of 4 kids in these schools, it means a lot to me. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I really hope that this board takes it under consideration. It means a lot to these young girls. And I see, I have a lot of young high school kids that work at our business. And they've talked about it. So I know it means a lot to these young ladies. And I felt the need to come up here and support them. Thank you.
Give me a sense of how many girls, like you mentioned that we have a gymnastics program that we share with Madison that has 4 slots on it. Great, okay, so we can have 3 Guilford people on a gymnastics. And then there's the dance program. Is that a competitive program as high school? Dance program is a club sport. It's a club sport. How many participants do we have in the dance program? Okay, so it's relatively good sized program, so 15 to 20 people is, yes, and it's around there. Volunteer. Okay.
I do believe in maybe getting to this, I feel like in this budget process, maybe 3 years ago, this was a consideration, but, I believe there's a threshold of having at least 10 students. Sounds like you're maybe getting there, so I didn't mean to jump ahead of you. 10 students, a minimum threshold of 10 students who might be able to participate. And I believe we ran into not having that number at one point when we were talking about the cheer program several years ago. To my knowledge, that may be where you're headed.
Yeah, which of course it's almost impossible to say, like, we don't check.
Right.
Guess how many of the participants would want to participate in cheer, but it's good to get a sense, since you guys are mentioning that there's, that it's gymnastics and dance kind of combined.
I do know one thing. There was a few years ago, a couple of the captains on the football team circulated a petition amongst last year. It was last year. Circulated a petition where over 20 girls in the school here signed on that they would join a cheer team if one existed here at the high school. I don't know what came of that petition, but it did circulate. And it was instigated by the captains of the football team.
Anybody else who would like to address the board, the budget?
All good, all good. Good evening, Nate Jacobson, 1470 Long Hill Road. I know many of you on the board. See, I was trying to count in my head how many years consecutively I've been coming to these budget meetings. The ones that I don't attend, like last Mondays, I tune in. So I consider myself pretty keen into the undergoing. This is a $68+ million budget. And I've been coming for 7 years straight. And the stuff that gets talked about is athletics, music, extracurricular activities that people advocate for. I bring that up as it's an interesting process that we're talking generally about a small amount of money in such a large budget. That balanced with the education and the academic programs are of course going to be the biggest priority. That also balanced in my head with exactly what Pat talked about is the amount of time and service that you guys give. I see the tip of the iceberg when I'm here at these meetings and when I'm watching on the YouTube channel. And a huge thank you to everything you guys do. It's not the phone calls that you're making with one another, with administrators, the prep in your committee meetings. I thank you a ton for your time. I can't help but think 7 straight years I'm coming to this, and it all comes down, or more comes down to emotional, social, emotional, extracurricular activity type things that gets discussed here more than class sizes. I mean, that certainly gets discussed more than how can we improve this academic program, where we go in that. I know all those conversations are had on the side, but from the public perspective, I think music, extracurricular activities, athletics are very important, because this post-COVID time is the most obvious or pressing when you look at the statistics on mental health. To me, there's nothing better than social emotional learning and social emotional wellness than getting kids involved in activities, athletics, music programs. I'm personally a PE, a sports guy, but I recognize that a kid doing the dance club, the music program, the chess club, that's their thing that they wake up in the morning and they're excited to come into school for. I know that our athletic director, Mr. Jarvis, recommended, I believe I heard 4 assistant coach positions. Dr. Freeman prioritized it to 1 that was going forward to you guys. I'm aware that roughly 11 months ago, last February, it seemed to me to be a very eye-opening experience for the board, with both questions as to where some of the athletic funding went, some equity issues, and I got a real sense that the board was passionate and recognized there's probably some financial equity issues here and some funding issues that we need to take a closer look at. After coming to these for 7 years, I think this board's got a real opportunity to try to, can we fix this in 1 year? Is this a 2-year plan? What is the plan? Balanced with, there's a $68 million budget. There are taxpayers that are worried, what are my taxes going to do? Can I afford to live in this town? I guess my overall point is, can we try to come up with a plan to fix this long term, so that for the next seven years, Mrs. Balistraci, you've been there, every one of them that I've been, that not so much time is coming into this public meeting, that people are feeling like they're being here, they're being supported, and the children have the extracurricular activities that we all recognize are important. Thank you.
Hello all, thank you for your time. My name is Rob Federici. I live at 230 Village Pond Road. I have a child who currently attends the preschool program at Guilford Lakes Elementary School, and have seen firsthand the learning and growth that preschool can provide. We are such fans of the program, my wife and I, that we have recently applied to have our other child hopefully start attending in the fall, whenever that decision comes due. My wife and I both think it's a terrific program that provides high quality and affordable education for the children who are fortunate enough to be accepted through the lottery. Unfortunately, the children are still picked through a lottery, which implies, to me at least, that the program is in high demand. So I come before the board today to ask you to investigate expanding the preschool program in some capacity to in either this or a future budget to the other elementary schools, besides just everyone in town comes to just Lakes. I feel like this would be incredibly beneficial for both the additional students who would be able to attend preschool in their own elementary districts, and for the parents who would then have another affordable option for preschool relative to the various private institutions in the area. Thank you very much.
Question?
Yeah, of
Just
course.
clarification.
Yeah.
So the program at Lakes.
Yeah.
Don't know, has a typical peers and not typical.
Right.
And as you can imagine, replicating that program for school.
Yes.
Am I correct in understanding your suggestion would be a preschool option, the other school, not necessarily replicating the peer, typical peer, not typical peer.
Right, that would be part of the
You're
the
you're
grittier. Absolutely right. You would probably have maybe a special ed section that has the peers and the services, other great services they provide there. And then you could have a more traditional preschool in the other schools.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm understanding your.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much. Would like to.
Hello. Polly Reader, 280 Sage Hollow Road. Before I start, I wanted to say that I very much appreciate you guys' time and service. It's like no other time, basically continuing with these strained times right now. And your support for the administration and teachers and how vocal you are about that. So we know that social and emotional learning is a top district priority and is prominent in our portrait of a graduate. The American Academy of Pediatrics states that recess promotes social and emotional learning. The CDC cites that this unstructured time improves student memory and attention, increases time on task in the classroom, and reduces disruptive behavior. So there are a litany of cognitive benefits of physical activity also, and much more research, but time limit, so I'm not just going to go on. So what I'm suggesting is a relatively small allocation that would benefit nearly 500 students in entire school, Baldwin Middle School. So Baldwin serves relatively young kids. When we call it a middle school, but they're 10, 11, 12 years old, grade levels that are partly or entirely within elementary schools in some other districts. And Baldwin is surrounded by amazing untapped resources. There are over 160 acres of wooded land that's town property with trails. And just if the kids could visit an acre of that, just a sliver of that would be really amazing. And there are, significant mental health benefits of being out in nature as well, very significant, rather than being on a parking lot. There's a small creek there, which is even better, just right adjacent to the parking lot. We also know that there are 2 athletic fields directly adjacent and the very best hill in town, even without snow on it, right? So, can you imagine how fantastic it would be for the students to be able to run down the hill, roll down the hill, just go sit on the hill and have a whole different vantage point on things and talk to a friend? They can't do that. So all of this is directly adjacent, but off limits to the students at recess. It's right there next to them. So in addition, if you think of any one of our elementary school playgrounds, there's an average of 53 students in that space at one time, an elementary grade, 1 grade level out at a time. So you have 53 kids in that elementary playground space. And then if you picture Baldwin with the parking lot and the small grassy area adjacent to it, enough to play like informal ball, but it's not by any means, a sports field. It's a much smaller space, I would argue. And you've got bigger kids and you have 120 of them, not 53. So, and I would say the Adams has a similar problem to that, and they have further reduced their recess space this year, perhaps due to staffing, I don't know, but it's smaller. So I will say that Baldwin students are provided a healthy and appropriate amount of recess, at least in our American education model. And the administration has increased that in the last couple of years. They've seen the student need, I think even before the pandemic, but certainly now. They've seen the positive outcomes, and administration has been strong in wanting to keep that. I know you guys have heard that from him. So I think it's all the more worthwhile of a place to invest in the daily student time. So, and then we look at Adams. Adams has its student free time outside the class was cut out of this year's schedule, reduced by a third, below what the CDC recommends. 100 minutes each and every week was removed of the student time out of the schedule, which doesn't seem to align with our district's priorities in terms of social emotional learning and others. So for years at Baldwin, we've heard that students could go to an athletic field if a recess aide could go with them. An additional recess aide would be, $14.38 an hour, 2.5 hours a day. That would allow 120 students at one recess. I mean, they're not all going to go. It would allow, 30 kids 4 times a day to leave that parking lot in a little green space. And even without, there aren't many, they would have additional space even without, that doesn't require additional structures or equipment. The hill, the woods, that's what the kids want. Just a couple of alternatives to that funding. The ratio of students to the recess aid could be balanced out. I think ours tends to be a little bit low. Or parents have suggested that we would happily volunteer in the past. It's done elsewhere, but we've been informed that the district wouldn't support that at that time. So lastly, clearly more recess structures and materials are needed to meet the student needs at Baldwin and at Adams, but particularly at Baldwin. And so that they can better gain the more typical cognitive, social, and emotional benefits of recess. It's well documented. Yep.
If other people are done and you want to back up, that's fine, but I'd like to see the performance, please. Yeah.
Thank you. So we've made some progress and just 480 students. That's what it would benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, and then I will, since I certainly just said that, if there's someone who had something else they wanted to say or didn't get to finish, I can certainly take some time now.
I just had a quick question.
Can
Um,
you, I'm
you want me to come up? Okay.
Podium, please. Yep.
Just after listening to the girls speak about the cheer and the dance program, he had said that it would only be like $5,000. Is that what they were requesting for a coach? Did they need a coach? I wasn't unclear, like, what would it take to run the program?
For
A coach to run the program, correct? And it would be at the high school and middle school level?
The request was for a coach at the high school and middle.
Okay.
I'm simply making sure that.
Yeah, I was trying, yeah. Well, I'm in support of that. I thought it sounded great.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Anybody else? All right, well, we really thank those of you who came tonight to speak to us for doing so. It is always a little bit easier to make decisions when we have a sense of what some of the topics is looking to see. We have again another public forum tomorrow night at 7:30 here at Guilford High School for folks who were unable to come tonight. And for people who couldn't make it to either of those meetings, every board member has their email address up on the Guilford Public Schools website. We have received a couple of emails from the community already with regards to the budget, and certainly are open to hearing from anyone who couldn't make it to one of these meetings. Just the general short-term schedule again is that we will have this public forum again tomorrow night. Per the budget timeline, we are going to be meeting on Monday, February 6th for a special meeting to approve a final Board of Education budget to put forth to the Board of Finance. We may, and we will post it ahead of time, depending on our internal needs for further discussion, could request a special meeting in between that time, for instance, next Monday, January 30th, if we felt like that would give the board more time for public discussion. And so stay alert if you're interested. Again, that will be posted. Unless any of my colleagues colleagues have any questions at the moment, then I think we can adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you and good evening.